How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just want to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Fyter Fest Week 1. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was Wardlow versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW TNT title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Wardlow went over and retained the AEW TNT title with the power bomb. That was match 1, by the way. Match 2, it was Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita in an interim AEW title eliminator match. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jon Moxley went over with the Bulldog choke. Match 3, that was match 2, by the way. Match 3, it was Lucasaurus versus Griff Garrison. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Lucasaurus went over with the tar pit. Now, before the match, as the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, were out in the ring, Christian Cage came out to the ring with a microphone, and Luchasaurus came along with Christian Cage, and Christian Cage cut a promo talking about how Brian Pillman Jr. had a stupid-looking mullet, and how he's as delusional as the crowd of Duluth, Georgia are, and everything. And Christian Cage was talking shit about Brian Pillman Jr.'s father, the late great Brian Pillman Sr., and talked about how the late great Brian Pillman Sr. wasn't a world champion in his career like Christian Cage himself has been, and talked about how Brian Pillman Sr. would be appalled by what his son Brian Pillman Jr. is doing in his career and everything. And then Christian Cage continued to talk more shit about Brian Pillman Jr.'s father, the late great Brian Pillman Sr. and everything. And then Christian Cage was talking shit about Griff Garrison, talking about how Griff Garrison posted on social media in a jungle and everything. And then Christian Cage asked Luchasaurus Christian Cage asked Luchasaurus, does Griff Garrison look like Jungle Boy? And Luchasaurus looked on, and so Christian Cage and Luchasaurus went onto the ring and everything. That was cool. Now, that was before the match, by the way. Now, after the match, Luchasaurus threw Griff Garrison out of the ring and was getting ready to execute the choke slam through a table, but Brian Pillman Jr. intervened and stood face to face with Luchasaurus, and then Christian Cage came along for a distraction, and Brian Pillman Jr. was getting ready to attack Christian Cage, but Luchasaurus executed a headbutt to Brian Pillman Jr., and then Luchasaurus put Griff Garrison on the table, and Luchasaurus executed the choke slam to Brian Pillman Jr. onto Griff Garrison on the table, but the table didn't break, so Christian Cage barked orders at Luchasaurus to execute another choke slam. So Luchasaurus executed another choke slam to Brian Pillman Jr. onto Griff Garrison on the table, and that time the table broke. And so Christian Cage and Luchasaurus were standing tall while the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, were laid out and everything. That was cool. That was match 3, by the way. Match 4, it was Claudio Castagnoli versus Jake Hager. That was a great match. but the ending to it, Claudio Castagnoli went over with the Ricola Bomb. That was match 4, by the way. Match 5, it was Serena Deeb versus Anna Jay. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Serena Deeb went over with the Serenity Lock. Now, after the match, Serena Deeb held the Serenity Lock on Anna Jay longer than usual, and as Serena Deeb had the Serenity Lock still locked on Anna Jay, Mercedes Martinez came out to the ring, and Mercedes Martinez grabbed Serena Deeb and threw her out of the ring. And Serena Deeb retreated by standing on the stage and taunting Mercedes Martinez and everything. And Mercedes Martinez was tending to Anna Jay, and then Mercedes Martinez stood tall, and so a stare down between Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez took place, and Anna Jay was still laid out and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. And that was match 5, by the way. And match 6, which was the main event, it was Swerve and Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, versus Team Taz, which are Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, versus the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson, in a triple or nothing match for the AEW Tag Team titles. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Swerve and Our Glory went over and won the AEW Tag Team titles, cause Swerve Strickland pinned Ricky Starks with the Swerve Stomp. That was match 6 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides the matches, AEW aired highlights of the match between Pac versus Shota Umino for the AEW All-Atlantic title at Rev Pro Wrestling. That was cool. Chris Jericho came out and cut a promo talking about how this wasn't Chris Jericho the rock star, or Chris Jericho the wizard, or Chris Jericho the sports entertainer. This is Chris Jericho, who is a fighter. And Chris Jericho was talking shit about Eddie Kingston, saying that Eddie Kingston wasn't a liar, but said that Eddie Kingston said that he was going to taste his blood and he was going to do this for his friends. And Chris Jericho was saying, I know what happens when it comes to your friends, Eddie. Like, for example, Ortiz, Eddie Kingston's friend. I shaved his head and embarrassed him in front of millions of people. Santana, Eddie Kingston's friend. The Jericho Appreciation Society took him out of Blood and Guts. And Ruby Soho, Eddie Kingston's Ruby. She got her ass kicked and got her hand broken by the beautiful Ty Conti. And Eddie, the reason we done that is because she's your Ruby. So you better take better care of her, Eddie. And Chris Jericho was going on saying that how Eddie Kingston wants a barbed wire everywhere match because Eddie Kingston is a mark for Terry Funk, Onita, and Sabu. And Chris Jericho was talking about how he's been through barbed wire. He was in a barbed wire match when he was 22 years old and everything. And then Chris Jericho was talking about how next Wednesday on AEW Dynamite's Fyter Fest Week 2 that he wasn't bringing Chris Jericho, just regular old Chris Jericho. He was going to be bringing, he said he was going to be bringing the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho talked about how he was going to kick Eddie Kingston's ass and make him rise in pain and everything as well. That was cool. Yeah. Eddie Kingston, along with Ortiz and Ruby Soho, cut a promo, and Eddie Kingston was talking about how he's dying for Chris Jericho to bring the Painmaker in the Barbed Wire Everywhere match and everything. And Eddie Kingston talked about how he was going to kick Chris Jericho's ass and how he was going to taste his blood and how he was going to make him rise in pain in the barbed wire and everything. And talked about how Chris Jericho really hurt Ruby Soho from her hand, from Ty Conti breaking her hand, and talked about how how Chris Jericho shaved Ortiz's head and embarrassed him in front of millions of people and everything. And then Eddie Kingston was talking about how he was gonna not only kick knock Chris Jericho out of his misery for himself, but he was also going to be doing it for Ortiz and Ruby Soho as well and everything. That was cool. And the House of Black, which are Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews, the House of Black, which are Malachi Black, Brody King, and Julia Hart, cut a promo, and Julia Hart was talking about how Darby Allin wasn't safe in the comfort zone and everything, and then Malachi Black was talking about how Darby Allin had a choice of having Venom antagonizing him or not and everything, and then Brody King was talking about how he didn't need Darby Allin's praise and how he was going to kick his ass and everything as well. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed the Jericho Appreciation Society, which are Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up that next week it'll be Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston in a Barbed Wire Everywhere match, and talked about how the Jericho Appreciation Society were barred from ringside and they would be trapped in a shark cage and everything. And then Matt Menard was going off talking about how they're done with cages and everything. And Angelo Parker talked about how it wasn't fair for the Jericho Appreciation Society to be trapped in a shark cage, but the Blackpool Combat Club, which are John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta, Proud and Powerful, which are Santana and Ortiz, and Eddie and Ruby Soho not being barred and everything as well, and talked about how they needed barred as well, not just the Jericho Appreciation Society and everything, and then Matt Menard and Angelo Parker left, and Daniel Garcia was saying, also, Tony, Wheeler Yuta has been a Daniel Garcia cosplayer for months now. So, Wheeler, how about I come after your Ring of Honor Pure World title? Because I'm going to do that, and I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm going to take your Ring of Honor Pure World title from you at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor and everything. That was cool. AEW made an announcement that their next pay-per-view event will be All Out, and it'll be on Sunday, September 4th, 2022 in Chicago, Illinois. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Hangman Page, and Tony Schiavone brought up to Hangman Page that he competed in the Royal Rampage match and talked about how he didn't come out successful and everything. And then Hangman Page was saying, yeah, Tony, I didn't come out successful, which I'm bummed out about, but there's other opportunities and everything. And then the Dark Order, which are John Silver and Alex Reynolds, came along, and John Silver talked about how he was pissed off that Brody King eliminated Hangman Page out of the Royal Rampage match, and Alex Reynolds talked about how they were going to go at it and everything, and then John Silver brought up that this Friday on AEW Rampage Fyter Fest week 1, that they were challenging the House of Black to a trios match. And Alex Reynolds talked about how they were going to kick the House of Black's ass and everything as well. And actually, John Silver challenged the House of Black to a tag team match, and that was John Silver that done that, and then Alex Reynolds talked about how they were going at it with the House of Black and everything, and then John Silver and Alex Reynolds, well, Hangman Page was saying, yeah, you all do that. So John Silver and Alex Reynolds left, and Hangman Page was looking on, along with Tony Shavani and everything. That was cool. Yeah. Lexi Nair interviewed Hook, and Lexi Nair brought up that Hook has been on a hot winning streak as of late, and Lexi Nair asked Hook if any AEW titles were in his grasp, if he was going after any of the AEW titles and everything, and Hook just looked at Lexi Nair and then walked off, and Lexi Nair got frustrated and everything. That was cool. AEW aired highlights of the match between Thunder Rosa versus Miyu Yamashita in an AEW Women's Title Eliminator match at Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Thunderstorm, which are Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up about Thunder Rosa coming up short in her match with Miyu Yamashita at Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling and everything, and then Thunder Rosa was saying, yes, Tony, I did come up short against Miyu Yamashita. But the bright side of it is, I got to return to my home of Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling in Japan. Even though I came up short, Miyu Yamashita will be coming here in America to challenge me for the AEW Women's title, and I can't wait for it. But not only that, Tony, but my partner, Tony Storm, and I, who are now called Thunderstorm, we are looking forward to facing the best women around the world and everything. And Tony Storm was getting ready to speak, but Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter came along, and Britt Baker was saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Thunder Rosa, Tony Storm. We tried to stay away. Jamie and I, we tried to stay away. But we realized, me being a role model, I couldn't stay away. Because this company in the women's division has been a disaster since Jamie Hayter and I have been absent. But we've been away because we were giving the women's division a chance without us. But it turned into a complete disaster. And you all want to call yourselves Thunderstorm? Oh, how cute. But we all know how thunderstorms are, because you two are the definition of thunderstorms, of a thunderstorm, because you all are nothing but chaotic. And that's what happens with thunderstorms. And Jamie Hayter was saying, yeah, Britt is right, because Britt and I, we're going to take out the thunderstorm of you two and everything. And then Britt Baker hollered for Rebel and had Rebel bring over some trash. And so Rebel came over with a big bag of trash or whatever was in it and gave it to Britt Baker. And then Britt Baker told Tony Schiavone to hold it. So Tony Schiavone held it, and Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, well, Britt Baker continued to talk more shit to Thunderstorm, which are Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm. And then Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, Jamie Hayter started laughing, and then Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter left, and Thunder Rosa was saying, "I can't wait to burn it in your face, Britt." And so Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm were looking on after Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter left, and Tony Schiavone was still there and everything. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed the baddies, which are Stokely Hathaway, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, and Layla Gray. And Tony Schiavone brought up about Chris Statlander and Athena talking shit about Jade Cargill and the baddies and everything. And then Jade Cargill was saying, "Tony, cut the shit. Now, Layla, aren't you supposed to be fetching us water? Because I didn't want you here as a baddie." But Stokely had to make an idiotic decision and put you as an interim baddie. And Stokely Hathaway was saying, Whoa. I know people are mad at me, Jade, but Stokely Hathaway never fails. Stokely Hathaway, which is myself, never fails. Yes, Layla Gray is an interim baddie, but I made that choice because I thought it was a great choice to have an interim baddie, and Layla Gray is the definition of an interim baddie and everything. And then Stokely Hathaway left, and then Kiera Hogan was saying, "Now, Layla Gray, you're not a baddie. You never will be a baddie. Because us baddies, we're better than you." And everything. And then Layla Gray, and they just all stared each other down and everything. With Tony Schiavone there and everything. Well, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, and Layla Gray, Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan stared at Layla Gray, and Layla Gray stared at him back, and then Tony Schiavone was still there and everything. That was cool. Let me see. Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh cut a promo, and Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh came out and cut a promo, and Jay Lethal was talking about how he was the longest reigning Ring of Honor television champion, and how at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor, he's gonna face off against Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor television title, and talked about how the student was gonna beat the shit out of the teacher and embarrass him and take the Ring of Honor television title from him and everything. That was cool. And Tony Schiavone interviewed Anna Jay, and Tony Schiavone brought up saying that he's now getting a word from Anna Jay about her leg injury and everything. And then Anna Jay was getting ready to speak, but Ty Conti came along and said, "Oh, poor Anna Jay. Your first match on TV in months, and this is what happens to you." And Anna Jay said, "Well, at least I didn't break Ruby Soho's hand like you did." And Ty Conti said, "Well, at least I've had a little bit more TV time than you have, because let's face it, Anna, if you don't start making you better start making better decisions for your career, or you're going to end up like this for the rest of your career. So Ty Conti left and Anna Jay was looking on and everything. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Taz and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. Tony Schiavone done commentary along with Taz and Excalibur for the first hour of the show. Jim Ross done commentary along with Taz and Excalibur for the second hour of the show. Well, Tony Schiavone done awesome as usual, and Jim Ross done awesome as usual. And William Regal done guest commentary along with Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Excalibur during the match between Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita in an interim AEW title eliminator match, and William Regal also done guest commentary, and William Regal also done guest commentary along with Jim Ross, Taz, and Excalibur during the match between Claudio Castagnoli versus Jake Hager. William Regal done great on guest commentary. The referees for the event were Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Wardlow versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW TNT title. Paul Turner refereed the match between Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita in an interim AEW title eliminator match. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Lucasaurus versus Griff Garrison. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Claudio Castagnoli versus Jake Hager. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Serena Deeb versus Anna Jay. And Rick Knox refereed the match between Swerve in Our Glory versus Team Taz versus the Young Bucks in a triple or nothing match for the AEW Tag Team titles. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, the match card that's been announced for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Fyter Fest Week 2, it's going to be Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston in a barbed wire everywhere match. Christian Cage and Luchasaurus versus the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, and Darby Allin versus Brody King. Those are the matches that have been announced so far. Now, so the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Fyter Fest Week 2, looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. And the match card that's been announced for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage special event, Fyter Fest Week 1, this Friday night, that's been announced so far. It's going to be Jonathan Gresham versus Lee Moriarty for the Ring of Honor World title. And the Lucha Brothers, which are Rey Fenix and Penta Oscuro versus Private Party, which are Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. Now, those are the matches that have been announced so far. Now, besides the matches that have been announced so far. The Gunn Club, which are Billy, Colton, and Austin Gunn, will be appearing live. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage special event, Fyter Fest Week 1, Friday night, looks like that's been announced so far. Looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Fyter Fest Week 1, for tonight, which is July 13th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.